start. Tim, Executive Director of the Department of State Attorneys and Sheriffs. With me is Annie Noonan, Director of Labor Relations and Operations. Lauren Clemens, who is Annie's successor, sitting to Annie's left here. Welcome to Lauren, and she's been with us now for about a month. So Lauren is we're so happy to have her here. And then of course Siri Rooney, our grants program administrator here for the department. And then we'll go around the room. We'll start with you, Jeremy.
Jeremy Evans. I'm the board chair for Windham County Safe Place.
And then Sheriff Harlow.
Good morning, Jen Harlow, Sheriff Orleans County.
And just so you know, Jen, this is a good audio test. You're a little quiet this morning. So just so you know. And then Ryan Prince.
Member of the public and Sam's #1 fan.
Amanda Munsell.
Munsell. Hi, everyone. Amanda Munsell, Grants Manager at Center for Crime Victim Services.
Okay, and board member along with Sheriff Harlow, and then John Paul Schmidt.
Board member as well.
John, JP, can you hear us? Sure, maybe he's frozen. Okay, Steve.
Good morning, Steve Brown, Windham County State's Attorney, also Vice Chair of Windham County Safe Place.
Okay, thank you. Morning, Steve. Dan Boyer. It looks like he's not in his chair, but Dan is with Kuzi. Okay, and then David. No last name, but I'm seeing a David on screen.
Hey, David Gardenstein, former prosecutor in Brattleboro, member of the Windham County Safe Place Board.
I figured that was you, David, but didn't want to assume. Good morning, Patty Randall.
Hi, good morning. Patty Randall, the Executive Director of the Vermont Children's Alliance. We provide support, resources, and advocacy to Vermont's 13 children's advocacy centers.
Good morning. Doug.
Morning, everyone. Douglas Farnham, Chief Recovery Officer, Board Member Delegate for Secretary Clark of the Agency of Administration.
Morning. Jenna Caslin.
Good morning, Jenna Caslin. I'm the Executive Director of the Bennington County Child Advocacy Center and Special Investigations Unit.
Good morning. Carolyn.
I'm Carolyn Hansen, she, her pronouns. I work with the Attorney General's office and I'm a board member.
Good morning. Samantha Prince.
Good morning, Samantha Prince, Executive Director for Windham County Safe Place.
Morning. Lance.
Hi, good morning. Lance Burnham from the Lamoille County Special Investigation Unit.
And then just so you know, my IT is limited. It says there's +4 participants, but I can't see who they are. I believe that Trisha Black is on, Nancy Miller, who's a board member. Nancy, are you on?
Good morning. Yeah, Nancy Miller, Child Safety Director for Family Services Division, DCF.
Okay. And then anyone else I missed? I'm just not seeing everyone on my screen, but I think there's others on.
Dan Boyer from Chittenden County.
And Samantha Shagnon. I'm listed as Lisa Bonzer. I apologize for the IT delay here. From Newsy, Franklin Grand Isle County CACs.
Okay. Anyone else, feel free to just put it in the chat or email Siri. We'll get right into it. The first is approval of the October minutes. I would entertain a motion to approve the October minutes.
I'll move to approve.
Thank you, Carolyn. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Nancy Miller.
Nancy, thank you. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor, say aye, raise your hand. Great. Any abstentions? Yeah. And Dan, just so you know, you're not a board member, so no need to vote. So no abstentions. Any opposed? And I will also note Ted Brady, the motion passes. Ted Brady also just joined us, and he's a board member from the Vermont League of Cities and Towns. Thank you, Ted. Good morning. The next thing we will do is update on personnel changes very quickly from Siri.
Yes, not really any big updates from the last meeting. We still have 2 vacant executive director slots in Caledonia and at Cousy. My understanding is that Caledonia is going to start interviewing this week or next. They have received a number of applications. And I did speak with Dan about Cousy last week, and his understanding is they will be advertising for the position soon.
Great, thank you so much. Next, we'll talk about where we left off last time, and the way that we'll do this is we'll first hear a summary from Siri, who received documents and correspondence from the Windham County SIU, and then I will speak to the department's recommendation, and then any discussion, and then some proposed votes. So thank you, Siri, the floor is yours.
Okay, forgive me for reading my notes. There's kind of a lot of information here. At the last SIU Grants Board meeting, we asked the Windham SIU Board for a number of documents, and I will report what we asked for and what we received. We requested job descriptions for the Windham SIU Executive Director position, the Windham Victim Advocate / Assistant Director position, and the BCA Director of Outreach and Advocacy position, and all 3 of those were received. You have those in the packets that I sent you. We also asked for a summary of the bank accounts for the Windham SIU, and we did receive that. As of October 16th, 2025, the total in 3 accounts is $115,789.56. So we received that. We also asked for actuals from the board, and they sent us a profit and loss report for Q1 of FY26, which documents a SIU program support request for $31,576. And I say request because they don't have their grant yet, so that is still a request. That was approximately $28,000 in personnel, $3,000 in rent, and then a small amount for a cell phone bill. We requested meeting minutes from their September 18th board meeting. We received those. Those were also in the packet that I sent out last week. And then finally, we asked for a reconciliation review of Samantha Prince's timesheets from both places of employment. And that we didn't receive. We essentially received a memo stating that a full review is still in process, and the board has voted to retain an outside accountant to review Sam Prince's timesheets and time records for FY25 and the first quarter of FY26. Of note is the fact that her FY25 Q4 timesheets in their entirety are not available due to computer storage issues. Additionally, in my review of what we did receive, the FY26 Q1 timesheets, I noted that there were many mistakes. In fact, I found 16 mistakes in that quarter's timesheets, where the numbers at the top didn't match the numbers at the bottom of the timesheet. She was requesting annual leave on a Sunday. All 3 months were signed by the board chair on one day. And we had noted some concerns with overlapping jobs. And again, just to note, we were not able to review the FY25 Q4 timesheets because they were unavailable.
Thank you, Siri. So one, I want to say I appreciate the work that was done to send us information. And then, in terms of the department's recommendation, my recommendation, based on our review here, is to really put this into 3 categories. The first would be that we approve a $60,000 allocation for the law enforcement grant. which goes $42,000 to the Brattleboro Police Department and $18,000 to the Dover Police Department. And I would entertain a motion to approve $60,000 for the law enforcement portion of this grant now, if someone would want to propose that motion.
I'll propose that motion.
Thank you very much, Doug. Do I hear a second?
Second it.
Seconded by Carolyn Hanson. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor, please raise your hand or say aye. Thank you very much. Any abstentions? And any noes? Okay, so that carries. We'll allocate the $60,000 for the law enforcement portion of the grant. The second, and this relates to really the third motion, which I'll want to actually do a small verbal summary on, would be to approve $72,000 of the $120,000 for the program support grant, which will be paid quarterly, and we are midway through the year, like all the other SIUs. And this would cover the salary benefits request for the VA assistant director position, rent, insurance, and cell phones. And that would mean we would withhold the $48,000 for the executive director's salary and benefits at this time, which I would like to discuss after we approve of the $72,000 for non-executive director salary and benefits. I would entertain a motion to approve $72,000 of the $120,000 at this time. Yeah, Sheriff Harlow.
I'll make that motion.
You're muted. You're muted, Sheriff.
She's not muted, but we can't.
Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, you're just very quiet.
I'm sorry. Okay, I'll yell. I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that motion, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Doug seconds the motion. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Any abstentions? Any no's? Okay, so we'll allocate the $72,000, but it's on a quarterly basis, so that actually means we'll allocate, what's the total for that? 38? Well, I'll take for the first 2 quarters. We'll let Barb and Siri sort that out, but we'll allocate for the first two quarters. And then the third motion would be to hold back the $48,000, which you did impliedly just now, for the executive director's salary. And one of the main reasons is that Windham County right now is engaged with an outside accountant. They sent to us in writing notice of this to review the executive director's timesheets for FY25 and the first quarter of FY26. And we do need to await those results in our professional opinion. The other piece I wanted to say in context here in corollary is that the funding for, just as a reminder, the grants program comes through our budget at this department, the Department of State's Attorneys and Sheriffs. Our department has a responsibility for the proper fiduciary oversight of those dollars, and because of the fiscal concerns we've noted regarding potential duplicative charging for paid work hours, we believe it would be prudent to hold back the amount of grant funds requested relating to the executive director's salary and benefits, $48,000, until such time as, 1, the department is able to have an independent review, and related to that, we are working with the state auditor's office through their subcontractor CLA to provide an analysis and guidance accordingly. That will be focused on FY25 timesheets and Q1 of FY26. As noted, this actually really lines up with what Windham County is doing at the local level. And so I would actually entertain a motion to formalize our pursuit of an independent review concerning the $48,000 being held back. And I would entertain that motion now, or we can discuss that.
Do we have to make that motion to do the discussion?
I think that would be best, but we could also have an open discussion. Ideally, I think we would entertain a motion so we could have a discussion though. So I see Nancy, your hand is up.
I would like to make a motion to have a discussion.
Okay, that's fine. So open discussion. Go. Feel free to ask any questions or note any concerns that you may have. Yes, Nancy.
I'm curious if somebody could explain the any gaps in service that would if the $48,000 for the executive director salary is withheld, what would that look like in terms of gaps in service for the CAC?
I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, that's a great question because the CAC would be forced to pay the executive director's salary.
Samantha, if you're going to be recognized, you have to raise your hand with the other board members. You're not a board member, and this is a board member discussion. Any other board members have any discussion on this point? If not, I can direct a question to the chair of the Windham County SIU, Jeremy Evans. Any other discussion from board members? Okay, Jeremy, you've been recognized if you want to speak to if there will be any gaps, and part of this is that your local board is also undergoing a similar process. Any gaps in response to board member Miller's questions?
If I could ask Steve if he'd like to chime in, he has a better understanding of the finance part than I do.
Absolutely, that's fine, thank you.
Thank you. That's a great question by the board member. The Safe Place would be forced to fund the executive director's position through the unrestricted funds that we have. And I think we do have funds in place that will likely cover the funding gap. It certainly then puts a strain on other services and other expenditures that we have that are primarily paid for through the unrestricted funds.
And I see Doug's hand is up.
It's what do we have an expected timeline on the review period? Do we know how soon that is expected to be completed?
That's a good question. Jeremy, on your end of things, do you know how long your folks are going to take with that outside accountant? I can speak to the state process after that.
I don't have a specific timeline to give you right now, so I'd just be guessing, but it's something that we're actively looking to do here.
Okay. On our side of things, and Annie, if you wanted to speak to what you think a turnaround time would be, ideally we would have the board's approval to proceed with this to ensure that we have the full authority of that. Honestly, regardless of the board's authority as the fiduciaries for this, I would still like to proceed with having the auditors subcontractor help here. But Annie, if you'd like to speak to that. Yeah, 8 weeks on our end of things, I think should cover it. Couple months. And in terms of the bank statements that we received, which was very helpful, we appreciate that. It looks like about 115,000 in the bank. I don't know if that's all unrestricted or not. All of the bills will be paid other than executive director salary and benefits because of your prior vote of $72,000 in terms of our side of things. Yes, that's looks like a couple months for our side of things. Any other board member discussion? Doug?
Yeah, just one thought I've had. I've worked through live action reviews with some municipalities in the past, and one way we handled that is by approving a partial award to prevent like a cash flow issue. So I think maybe we should consider doing 24,000 of the 48, because I think even if we say the results of the review do find a certain percentage that we're uncomfortable with, I can't see a scenario where it's going to hit like 50%. I would have trouble picturing that, right? So I think that's one thing maybe we could consider in order to keep the cash flow kind of moving. And there's a certain amount of risk in doing that, but I think personally, I think it might be a relatively low amount of risk.
I mean, in terms of what we've seen from the budget, The dollars that you've already voted to approve would cover what they put in their budget for rent, the other staff member, insurance, cell phones, and things like that. So in terms of cash flow for operations, that's not going to be impacted. This is the scope of what we're looking at is with respect to the executive director's time in the Wyndham office. So yes, but this is good discussion. I appreciate that, Doug. Any other discussion from board members? Obviously, you're all welcome to propose and entertain your own motions, but any other discussion from board members? How would you all like to proceed? And I see Amanda from CCDS.
Hi, thanks. I don't know if this was already mentioned, so I apologize if I missed it. And hi, everyone. I am new, so I apologize that I am kind of, catching up on everything. But I did have a question. I mean, because I have concerns about the use of unrestricted funds, is this something that, like, if and when the board concludes, the results, or this, excuse me, not the board, but after the investigation, which you say should take about 8 weeks, is this something that, like, they would be able to be reimbursed, or is this going to be completely there? You have to use their unrestricted funds, and then that's it. They don't get compensated in any way if nothing is found. Again, I'm just kind of thinking about, like, it's not like these organizations are flush with cash. And again, I understand that, like, this is only in particular to the executive director, but I'm also just wondering from our perspective of ensuring that they're doing what we as also a grantor is, we're giving them money to do. I'm just kind of curious about that. Thanks.
That's a great question, Annie. In terms of, let's say in 2 months we came back and there was no issues found, the amount for that time period, is that something we would reimburse?
We generally don't reimburse unrestricted funds if the programs want to use the money for purposes. Could be an exception because the money is being held back until the audit review, 2 audits, it sounds like, would be concluded. So the board, the SIU grant board could come back and say it's authorized to replenish the funding at this time. It's not usually done. The unrestricted funds are when people overspend their training budget, for example, which happens frequently, can happen, then that's on them. But generally speaking, the board can take that issue up at its next meeting.
Yeah, you all could direct. You're the grant board, and so you could direct in the department and how you'd like to address that. Certainly. So yeah, great question, Amanda. I really appreciate that question. It's a logistical one that would be important to address. Carolyn? Yeah, Carolyn Hanson.
Just a question, Tim. I mean, it seems like the local board is already doing, I'm just trying to understand the idea behind withholding this money. I mean, the local board is already doing a financial review. So what's the reason for needing to have a state level review as well and not giving the money up front if there's already a process underway to correct any problems that may have occurred?
Yeah, so these are state dollars that we receive in our budget. And so if this was something having to do with funding from another source or local fundraising, a local donor, that would be more in line with what you're talking about. But because these are state taxpayer dollars that get funded through our department, we would like to have our own review because we are the fiduciaries of the dollars that we receive. And Annie has worked in state government for a number of years and has seen issues arise in terms of local allocation from state entities. Annie, did you have a comment on this?
I mean, we have a statewide fiscal policy that says any department that has any concerns has to engage in due diligence to clear those concerns. I think everybody is aware of the memo that Doug Hopper's office sends out annually. So, if there's a concern that's coming, the money is being coming out of our department budget, we have to do our due diligence to ensure that we believe the money is being properly charged.
Thank you.
I do understand that. I'm just trying to figure out, if I understood you correctly, Annie, you were saying if they use the unrestricted funds, separate funds to pay for the executive director position up until this funding comes in, they may not be able to replenish that fund with these dollars
No.
once they're approved. Is that right?
Yeah.
Let me go back. Sorry, Carol. Let me just back up a sec. I think I got your question. If not, ask me again. But what I was saying is that generally speaking, unrestricted funds are monies that the programs receive. Usually, their fundraising money, could be private donations, all of that stuff. What I said was, if in fact the audits clear any issues and money is the 48,000 is then awarded, the question on the table was, could the program then replenish their unrestricted fund money? And I said that would be something that this board, that you sit on here, the statewide board, could vote to allow that to happen, to put that money back into their unrestricted funds. Generally speaking, we don't see that crossing back and forth because it's just highly unusual, but that's something that the board could vote on at your next meeting.
Yeah, you could approve that process, Carolyn. You could either set up that infrastructure now through a motion, or you could take it up at a future meeting as well. And I just want to remind folks, if you're not a board member, you haven't been recognized, you can speak during public comment. Any other comments from board members or questions, how you'd like to proceed? Sheriff Harlow.
Good morning. So I think that just to make sure that we have all our ducks in the row, that going through with the audit, and if they have the ability to pay, then I agree with Carolyn, like we can make that motion either after we make the motion that's on the table that we're discussing right now, and then make the motion that if and when the audit is completed and everything comes out good on that end, then we can allow them to use the funding that was withheld temporarily and put back into their unrestricted funds.
Great. And by the way, the motion that I think we're discussing right now is actually just to discuss this issue. There hasn't been a motion yet to hold back the 48. I would say that impliedly, you've done that thus far by approving the 72. You have not approved of the 48 at this point. So I would entertain a motion as to how anyone would like to proceed here, and then we can discuss that motion and see if something can carry it or not.
Well, I'll make the motion to end the discussion unless there's anything further. Move on.
All those in favor of ending the discussion, here a second to approve of Jen's motion to end the discussion.
I'll second that motion.
Doug, any discussion? All those in favor say aye or raise your hand. Any abstentions? All those no's. Okay. So now I think we're at a point where what would you like to do with the yet unallocated 48,000 of the request? I see Doug.
I'd like to propose a motion to approve 24,000 or 50% of the 48,000, and then revisit the remainder of the award pending the results of the independent review.
Do I hear a second?
Second it.
Second by Carolyn Hanson. Any discussion? Oh, and I see Nancy. Is that a discussion hand or a second hand? Okay, got it. Understood. Any discussion? I'll just say that, Jen.
Sorry, I can appreciate what Doug is saying. Is that going to hold us liable for anything? Like, so what, worst case scenario, what if the audit comes back where there might be some negligence? What is that going to look like for us for the funding?
I do not know. Doug might know the answer to this.
Okay, thank you, Doug.
Yes,
so
Doug.
Sheriff, especially in my role as Deputy Secretary before my current function, oversight of a grant, essentially, you know, there's the due diligence requirement. And when internal controls are found to have been insufficient, that'll usually come up with a finding. And in this case, it's possible we would have a finding as a result of that independent review. What the auditor's office would usually require is if there's a significant finding, then they might expect us to go back and review prior years to see if that was a persistent and significant financial issue. If it appeared to be a one-time issue, they might not require that, right? So one reason I suggested the 50% of the award is that, especially since these are state funds, it's incredibly unlikely that a severe enough financial issue would cause us to have to do that much reconciliation. I think this is more likely something where we might find things around the edges that we don't agree with the use of the state monies, and then we would work that out with the recipient of the state funds. And we're obligated to kind of correct it over time, but it also doesn't need to all be corrected all at once. We can make sure we have to have that remediation plan. And I think that, especially leaving 24,000 on the table, there's a little bit of risk there, right? But I think it's relatively low, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? And I'll just say that under my fiduciary responsibility to the department and taxpayers, I'm still going to be proceeding with the work with the subcontractor for the state auditor. Yes, Amanda, discussion.
Sorry, I just wanted to have just clarify one thing. Let's say that, we go with the motion that Doug has proposed with the 50% for now. This is assuming also that the remaining 24%, right? Or the 24K would be approved once the commission, once again, sorry, I'm using the wrong language right here, but once, the review has been completed. I just wanted to make sure that was my understanding.
I would say that would be a point of discussion for you all the next time. Once we conclude that process, that would be agenda item number 1 for you all to consider.
Okay, just wanted to make sure that was not going to be, utilized for something else, but this was still going to be something that we could discuss and approve.
Good question, Amanda.
Okay, thank you.
Doug.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I had considered making a contingent approval of the remaining funds part of the motion, but the language would be pretty complex, and I think revisiting the results of the independent review. But we could also amend the motion to make it clear that there's an intention to revisit the remainder of the award pending the results of the independent reviews, both local and state. I'd be certainly favorable to amending my motion to account for that second step of revisiting.
I'm happy to include that as a friendly amendment without further procedural pieces. So we will include that as a friendly amendment, absent any objections. And we are still in the discussion portion with that friendly amendment. Any other discussion?
And Tim, this is Ted Brady.
Hi, Tim.
Just curious if you and Annie could just really answer directly. You folks came to us with a recommendation to withhold the full 48, and there's a motion on the floor to only withhold half of that. Do you feel you can possibly? Do you feel comfortable with the motion that's on the floor, and that the department can do its due diligence and ensure the best use and safe use of public funds with the motion that's on the floor?
I think in the words of an annoying group of attorneys, it will depend on what happens in a couple of months. So at this point, I can't say. At this point, I'm going to tell you I'm going to be voting no. I think it's the most prudent action to withhold the whole 48 during the review process. But I understand Doug's recommended a middle path. But I appreciate that question very much, Ted, in part because I'm not going to predetermine what or what not is going to be found. And that's part of the reason that I really wanted an independent review. Siri Rooney works very hard. Annie Unin works very hard. Lauren is already working very, very hard. But we do not have a team of internal auditors here, so I am going to need to rely on an outside entity. So bit of a both ways question and answer from me, Ted, but I don't know yet. I don't know yet. At this point, I still feel like it's most prudent to withhold the full 48 pending results. But it's a good question. Okay, any other discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye. And we'll, before we vote, I'll just repeat the motion, and Doug and Siri can make sure that I get it right after the fact too, but it's to approve 50% of the 48,000 or 24,000 with a pending contingent approval of the full portion after the results come back from the state's auditors subcontractor on this issue. I know we'll put it more artfully in the minutes, but for the sake of voting, all those in favor of that, please raise your hand and say aye. Okay, and I might actually do a roll call on this just so I get it right. So I'll go to Amanda.
Yes. I just want to say too that, like, again, the center has not had problems with Sam. She's been very compliant, so I just wanted to make sure that was on the record as well.
Okay. Carolyn Hanson. Is that an aye? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, sorry. Doug Farnham.
Aye.
Nancy Miller.
Aye.
Peter Mantello, is he on for the Chiefs? He's not here. And John Paul Sinclair, Vermont State Police.
Aye.
And Ted Brady, League of Cities and Towns.
No.
And I will also be voting no. The motion does. Oh, and Sheriff Harlow, sorry, I didn't see you on top of it.
Okay, no.
I used the last agenda minutes to see who was here from the last time, but Sheriff Harlow votes no. And I also vote no. The motion does carry. In case I missed anyone, and for the record, any abstentions or other votes, I think I got everyone. Okay. So we will proceed as outlined with respect to the 48, and Siri and Annie and Barb we'll work that out going forward, and then we will have another board meeting at the conclusion of the review, and also a request of you, Jeremy, when you know your timeline, if you can just let us know, and then we will inform the SIU Grants Board of whatever results you obtain from your outside entity locally. And we'll include that in our discussion at the next SIU Grants Board meeting. And so you'd obviously be allowed to bring that and to send that along when it's ready, as a part of our, as Doug said, our due diligence on this issue. Am I missing anything here? Oh, another piece that I'd like to bring up at the next board meeting, because I think it's best at that, is potentially an approved upon process whereby Chair Evans of the local SIU and myself could engage in a agreed upon documentation for specific hours worked each day. This process would be required for future disbursement, but I think it's probably best brought up after we have the review, and you know, that way Chair Evans and I can have some discussions about how to proceed once we have those results back. Once we have some of the data from the external entities, I think that's something that I'd like to proceed. So we can bring that up at the next board meeting, essentially how we go on from here. But I know we're going up on about 40 minutes. Any other comments or new business from board members? Thank you all for working through that process. And any public comment? Okay, and I don't have everyone on screen, so if you want any public comment and you're not on screen, feel free to pipe up now.
My name is Sam Angel. I don't know if you can see me. My camera is on. I don't know if you can hear me, but hopefully you can.
Yes, we can hear you. Yep.
May I be recognized as a member of the public to speak?
Yes, please do.
Thank you. I'm a board member on Windham County Safe Place. I'm a litigator in Windham County and have been for almost 25 years. About 50% of what I do is family law, and my pro bono work is to represent children in high conflict divorces. I'm appointed by the court to represent children in those cases and also cases of sexual and physical abuse. That where the children or child are the alleged victims. I'm just wondering, during your 6 to 8 week review process, will there be an opportunity, or is there part of the procedure where you might reach out to board members that have worked with Samantha Prince to speak to her character and her diligence in what she does? Is that part of your review process? And if it's not, will you accept a letter from me as part of your review? Thank you.
Please do feel free to send a letter. I appreciate that, Sam. And that would be up to the subcontractor for the state's auditor about how they want to proceed. But please do feel free to send a letter, and we can first of all, we can include it in our documents, but also we can forward that along.
And I'm sorry, to whom would I address that, please?
You can address that to me.
And who are you?
I'm the executive director of the Department of State's Attorneys and Sheriffs. Thank you. Any other public comments? All right. Well, I appreciate this. I think we had one other agenda item. It was to talk about the SIU statute. I don't know, we have a few extra minutes here. Is that okay for folks if we go over that quickly? It's a very brief document. It's in your packet from Siri.
Yeah, just very briefly, we have been looking at the SIU statute, and we would like to clean up some very outdated language. This is really basic, and I'll send you what we're proposing to change. Like it lists the Attorney General as the adopting authority when it should be Department of State's Attorneys and Sheriffs. Just a couple really, really brief amendments. But again, I'll send that out to you.
Yeah, I think we could probably bring that up next time we meet. This has been appreciate everyone's time today. And I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion to adjourn.
So moved by Sheriff Harlow. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Carolyn. Okay, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Any abstentions? Any noes? I appreciate it. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Rejoin the meeting just to turn off the record.